All right, thanks a lot, Mitch. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Christoph Sohn. I'm Enterprise Innovation Consultant at Hype. I'm working in innovation management for about 4 years, and in my role as a consultant at Hype, my focus is on supporting companies on the people and process side of collaborative innovation programs. As such, I'm giving, for example, workshops and training for sharing best practices, planning campaigns, giving advice on how to effectively roll out an innovation program in your company, conducting health checks, and so on. For those of you who don't even know Hype yet, let me give a very brief introduction to our company and offerings. Hype is a fully dedicated company to idea and innovation management. As such, we are one of the largest vendors in the market with over 90 employees. Hype spun off from Daimler Chrysler in 2001 and is today headquartered in Bonn, Germany, with additional offices in Boston, San Francisco, London, Lyon, Berlin, and even Abu Dhabi. Our customers are large and medium multinational corporations of all industries, including, for example, DHL, Nokia, Airbus, Liberty Global, PwC, and around 190 more clients. Although our core offering is our software, we understand ourselves as a solution provider. Our software comes out of the box as a turnkey solution, including a collaborative innovation process based on our 14 years of experience. However, our products are also highly customizable, and Hype also offers to adapt our standard solution to meet your specific requirements. Last but not least, we offer consulting support to help you integrate a collaborative innovation platform in your organization's structure and culture, but we also support clients with established innovation programs to expand their program and make it more efficient. Okay, before we move on to today's main topic, I'd like to give a very brief introduction to what collaborative innovation actually is. This helps us to set the frame for today's topic and ensures that we're all on the same page. The core of a collaborative innovation program is a software platform that allows to integrate different stakeholders from all across the company, may that be different functional roles, business units, or different regions. But such a platform, of course, can also be used to integrate external stakeholders and have them participate in your innovation programs, such as other vendors, such as suppliers, universities, consumers, or maybe even competitors. Whereas such platforms are mainly used to collect and develop ideas to certain business needs or find solutions or concepts to specific challenges, they are as well being used to collect, for example, customer insights or exchange best practices. All right, so our main topic today are comments and discussions. An essential part of a collaborative approach to innovation, and hence the difference to a mere idea Dropbox, is the cooperation of the community in order to help discover ideas with great potential, pinpoint the weaknesses of some ideas, and develop the best ones further. This has been done by different kinds of comments from the community, which help the idea grow. Good comments add pieces of information to the idea which are helpful in the review and concepting phase. But what are actually good, useful comments that we'd like to get? Useful comments are, for example, details that are information that supplement the idea, fill in some missing pieces in the proposed solution. Maybe remarks, for example, that the idea does not meet the campaign question criteria at a certain point, or that a competitor is already working on a similar solution. Maybe different perspectives, for example, a sales colleague raising specific customer needs, or procurement bringing in insights from suppliers. Furthermore, this may be links to other ideas or existing solutions from inside or outside the company, but also links to people with expertise that should be added to the discussion. This may also be weaknesses and risks, so what is the idea actually missing? At which point does it need more elaboration? What won't work as suggested? Finally, good comments that we'd like to see are, of course, also questions. They're an essential part of a discussion. In companies with a more mature culture of collaboration, we don't need to do much of orchestrated moderation and put much effort in getting the discussion going, but those questions come from within the community. If this is not the case, we should involve people in helping us with that. But more on that later. So what are less useful comments? This would be comments like, this idea is great, or I'd like to see that implemented. They are nice to have as they give kudos to the idea contributor. However, there's not much value in these, and if we get many of these, they clutter the discussion thread. Rather negative comments like, this won't work, or we've tried that before, or your idea bears a lot of risk, are of course also not the most desirable ones. Same goes for even more offensive ones, or if someone is sharing, maybe by mistake, information which is not yet meant to be disclosed to the wider audience. So, would you rather do without these less helpful comments? Some thoughts on that. So, having a simple voting functionality actually helps already to prevent some of those less helpful comments, because the users can express their feeling about an idea through their vote. Some of you that use regularly public forums on the internet have probably seen that in the last few years, in many forums, there was a thank you button introduced. Reason for that is quite simple. Thankful people can express their gratitude through that, without cluttering the thread with hundreds of thank you comments. So this works quite similar on idea platforms with a vote button. As known from everyday life, bad or less constructive feedback is typically better than no feedback at all. Some of those comments that are by themselves less helpful, such as this won't work or the like, actually give you the opportunity to engage the commenter into a discussion by asking why it won't work, what the origin of his skepticism is. Although a high number of comments doesn't say anything whether the idea is good and the comments are helpful, it does indicate that an idea raises a lot of attention and is therefore worth looking at. Often ideas of a more disruptive nature are prone to result in controversial discussions. So, what would the typical and a good discussion look like? Let's have a look at that first. So ideally, we'll have a new idea and somebody raises the problem saying that won't work for whatever reason. Somebody comes and says, okay, but if we change something, if we try a different way, we can fix the problem. Somebody else comes and say, okay, we can make this idea even better and enriches this. And there might be more people coming in saying it won't work, others jump in and share some more thoughts on it, maybe merge the idea with some other ideas that are already in the system. Eventually there might be someone coming that is thinking already about how this could actually be implemented and looks at what challenges there still are when we put it in practice. Eventually people come and overcome and fix this issue. So who's actually driving these kind of discussions? Well, there's a number of different personality types which is actually driving these discussions. You would find people that offer something new in there that are rather sharing the idea and maybe enriching it. However, there are also always typical people that are identifying weak areas. Furthermore, there are people that are rather helping each other and help the idea to advance, and people that you would normally rather find towards the end of the whole improvement process that drive ideas towards implementation. But let's have a closer look at these different types. Creative types have a strong interest in investigating new possibilities. They get excited about new technologies or business model innovations and come up with new ideas all the time of how to apply that for their own organization. However, they often have a limited appetite for details and don't want to get stuck on one single idea. Then there is the kind of inquisitive type. They're rather the skeptics, where it feels a bit unpleasant to have them as they diminish first enthusiasm. They take a close look at ideas, question things, and identify weaknesses and risks. Therefore, the inquisitive types are really important to have. Their questioning makes it clear what's needed to advance an idea, or alternatively, they identify fatal flaws that make everyone realize that the idea is actually not feasible. Then there is the helper type, people that rather do some incremental improvement and add some missing pieces to the puzzle, maybe add their expertise on certain aspects, and very typical is also that these kind of people would make connections to other people in the company that they know of have worked on a similar problem, or maybe even suggest other solutions that have been found in the company, other attempts, or maybe even other ideas that were also submitted on the platform. They rather make these kind of links. Finally, there is the doer type, which is a more practical-oriented person that rather looks at ideas that have already gone through an iterative series of improvements. They would formulate the essentials for how to make the idea become reality, identify the gaps, and see which existing resources and technologies could be utilized. So let's take a look at why discussions, and hence also the inclusion of these 4 personality types that drive the discussion, is actually valuable to us. First of all, discussions and comments bring us some other opinions and views. Depending on the invited audience, you may have people looking with different eyes on your idea for various reasons. For example, because they are the creative types that I just spoke of, so they are the ones that don't think too much about feasibility and strategic fit. Also, because maybe they are in a different functional role than the idea contributor and they have a different perspective. Furthermore, because they may have the right distance to a problem that is sometimes needed. Or because they have some expertise and insights from previous jobs or coming from their personal interests. And therefore, there might just be some hidden knowledge that you didn't know of and that you wouldn't have asked for. Another reason why the value of why discussions are so valuable is that collaboration around ideas increases the speed of processing ideas as well as the value of your whole portfolio. Obviously, we want to have all information relating to an idea on the table as early as possible. On the one hand, it helps us to early identify issues, risks, or fatal flaws that, if detected late in the implementation process, could cost a lot to eliminate or even lead to a project stop. On the other hand, ideas often get enriched by others, which obviously increase the value of an idea when it moves on in the process. But of course, the discourse may help us also to identify existing resources and insights that are useful in prototyping or implementation, and of which maybe no one would have thought of in later stages. After all, knowledge management is a huge problem for companies. Many companies probably, and many of you probably know the saying, if we only knew what we knew, we would do much better. Large corporations have so much expertise, so much knowledge, and very often you just don't know where to look for this. Okay, so what are actually these 5 triggers that you can pull to drive valuable discussions? Trigger number 1, communications. Use all ways of communication with the audience to underline that you are not only looking for participants to submit new ideas, but equally important, also want them to look at other ideas and contribute their insights and views on these via commenting. If you're running campaigns, for example, this should be written explicitly in the campaign question. Just because there's a commenting feature doesn't mean that the people will also use it effectively. So make this clear. This should also be stressed in the invitation to the platform or the campaign. Those without an idea may not even enter the idea platform if they think it's just an idea Dropbox. Communicating that commenting is also desired will promote participation of our non-creative contributor types, the ones that rather add value through their comments instead of submitting own ideas. If you feel that you get many ideas, maybe even a lot of them being duplicates, it is even more important to adjust your communication tactics to stress, for example, in the campaign reminder, emails, that you would like to see people also collaborate around existing ideas and not just share ideas. So consider using all channels that you're using to share information with the audience to bring that message across, such as articles, town hall meetings, newsletters, etc. Trigger number 2, seed comments. If you're running time-restricted idea campaigns, we advise not to launch new campaigns to the wider audience without having any content in there. If you do so, a typical human phenomenon would set in that you may have seen at parties. Nobody wants to be the first one on the dance floor. People feel unpleasant if they are the only ones dancing while everybody's just watching. And you don't know if others follow at all. What an awkward situation. Therefore, every campaign should be preceded with some first ideas by hand-picked people from the audience. However, this also goes for comments and votes. People will much quicker adopt these desired behaviors if they see that others have also done that before. Furthermore, humans normally prefer to get examples in order to understand what you're really talking about. Therefore, add some comments to your seed ideas, create a little discussion around it, and people will understand that this is a desired behavior. Trigger number 3, active moderation. An important part of starting and steering a discussion is active moderation. Moderators should help the idea submitter to improve their idea, for example, by pointing out missing pieces, such as an important requirement which was not covered or areas where the idea needs more elaboration. Moderators should also lead by example and show the behaviors that we also want to see from other participants. For example, to make connections to other ideas or to people with expertise on the subject matter. Also, they might want to refer to similar previous attempts inside or outside the organization. It is important to clarify responsibilities for moderation. Often this is done by the innovation management team themselves. Depending on your traffic, you might, however, need more support and nominate others to take over that role. More mature innovation programs often also maintain an innovation advocate community. Innovation advocates typically are the key supporters of an innovation program that act as your eyes and ears on the ground and which encourage peers from the bottom to participate. So consider to recruit moderators from your innovation advocate community for individual campaigns or even as a more regular side job for them. Time plays an important role in order to get discussions started. if someone has to wait for a week to get a response to their question or feedback to their idea, chances are small that we'll get a lively discussion started around that. Also, if participants that log on don't see recent activities on the platform, they don't see the need to come back that often, as there doesn't seem to happen much on the platform that they might miss. Therefore, moderators should log on at least once a day to monitor and engage in discussions around ideas or initiate new ones. If you're running very short campaigns that only last for a couple of days, often called idea jams, you would, of course, need a higher frequency in moderation and also a larger group of moderators, depending, of course, on how many people you have invited. One of our clients, Volvo Trucks, uses that jam approach and created in a recent three-day jam with 2,100 users, over 600 ideas with more than 3,000 comments. To boost the discussions, they actually had a team of 49 moderators, which were spread across the globe and briefed beforehand and got a little training on how they can use the platform and how they can act as moderators and what they should do. So this ratio of 1 to 5, 5 comments per one idea, is a really good number, which certainly wouldn't have been reached without the involvement of moderators. All right, trigger number 4. If you're using a campaign-based approach in the idea creation process, you should have a sponsor that owns the need where the campaign focuses on. Although these are, due to their position in top or middle management, often hard to get, try to convince the sponsor to visit his campaign a few times throughout its runtime. This would lead to a growing belief in the process. The audience realized that the sponsor is not just putting his name and photo in front of the campaign, but really dedicated to the challenge. This typically boosts participation by all means. Another party that you might want to engage in discussions are the selected jury members or evaluators, respectively, since they are the ones that need to look at their ideas and judge upon those at some point. It is recommendable that they ask their questions or make their remarks while the idea is still being worked on by the community. You should therefore brief them beforehand and consider to book some reminders for this in their diaries. Finally, trigger number 5, rewards and recognition. Recognition is, in the long run, one of the most effective motivators, not only in collaborative innovation programs. Recognizing the people that submitted a great idea which got implemented, but leaving out others that made substantial contributions through comments works, however, in the opposite direction. It demotivates the ones left out and harms your culture of collaboration. As mentioned before, there are different types of contributors. Some people might be big supporters of your program and participate regularly, however, mainly through their valuable comments to ideas submitted by others. So if we don't ever recognize those people's efforts, we'll lose them over time. Therefore, when you're regularly recognizing ideas and idea submitters, remember to do the same for lively discussions, good comments, and active commenters. This goes, of course, also for any other forms of rewards, that whatever those may be. For example, many of our clients reward idea submitters by letting them choose to take part in the concepting or implementation phase of the idea. If some substantial value was added to the idea by commenters, one should certainly consider to pull in the commenters as well into this process. All right, so these were the 5 triggers. I'd just like to summarize these 5 once again. Trigger number 1, communications. Use all your channels that you have in order to to stress that commenting and discussions are a desired behavior. Use seed comments as well as you should use seed ideas. Just demonstrate to new campaigns, to new platforms, that the commenting functionality actually exists and what it should be used for. Use active moderation, ask questions directly to people, just try to get discussions starting and steer discussions into a certain direction in order to get most value out of these. Trigger number 4 involves sponsors and reviewers. We've seen that with many clients that have done this and that actually shared their experience on this, that especially involving the sponsor really helps to boost the participation and increase the trust in this whole campaign if you are running campaigns and in this whole process. And the same goes for the reviewers, which are actually doing part of their job already if they check out existing ideas during the campaign and yeah, basically look at these and ask their questions beforehand. Once the campaign is closed, once there's no discussion going on anymore, reviewers, yeah, it's hard to get back to the idea submitters in order to ask these questions. And 5, trigger number 5, eventually use rewards and recognition. Recognize comments and valuable discussions as much as ideas. Otherwise, people will just feel that only ideas are welcome and only ideas are really important, but the comments and discussions are less important, and these helper types, but actually all our non-creative types would basically just not be rewarded and therefore would lose interest over the long run because these important motivator recognition would just be not for them. All right, so we're actually through already with our main part. So thank you for your attention so far, and let me have a look if we have any questions. All right, okay, there are a few questions. How do sponsors participate is one of these questions. Well, sponsors, maybe I need to make clear again that sponsors are, with sponsors we mean campaign sponsors that are actually ahead or sitting ahead of the campaign, which are basically driving the campaign and have the real business need. Well, they should participate also by logging on once in a while to the campaign and yeah, looking at different ideas and just asking questions themselves. Take some little moderation role in here and also just yeah, give their feedback on these. I mentioned before that comments like "I like this idea" is great are not really comments that we would like to have. However, if the sponsor is giving these, we actually do want to have these kind of comments from him, because that would certainly be would certainly have a much larger effect if we get this direct feedback from the sponsor than getting this feedback from any other user. However, also sponsor participating depending on your innovation platform, but some innovation platforms also actually display who visited an idea. And if that's the case, as for example the case with the Hype platform, just seeing that your sponsor actually looked at your idea is of course also valuable already and shows some kind of recognition. So what is a healthy comments to idea ratio? That's a very good question. Normally we say a ratio of 2 comments per idea is good and healthy. So if you have that, you should be fine. However, that depends, of course, on the quality of the comments. So if you would say about 50% of all comments can be considered helpful, then a 1-to-2 ratio is totally fine. You can, however, also reach much higher rates. And I mentioned before the Volvo example where they actually got a ratio of 1-to-5, that is 5 comments per idea, which is also not that unusual. It all depends on actually which triggers you're pulling and how active you are in moderation, how fast you respond. And of course, often it also depends a little bit on your culture. So in some companies, this collaboration might just be really untypical, and therefore you might not see that a lot. However, in other companies, this may be totally different. Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Is it okay to delete bad comments? Well, depending on how bad they basically are, it might be okay to delete them if they are offensive ones, or if you have comments where, for example, there was some information disclosed which are actually not supposed to be disclosed to the wider audience. Of course, you might want to delete them, or some platforms actually have a discussion functionality where you can, a flagging functionality, excuse me, where you can basically flag ideas, flag comments, and they will disappear, and only the innovation manager or the campaign moderator can decide whether they should still be visible to others. So then in that case, of course, you might want to do that and might want to hide some comments. However, in general, we say be rather passive in that sense. And if you have, for example, these kind of comments like, this won't work, or I don't like that idea, or this is too risky, rather use these kind of comments for starting basically a new conversation. So you might just want to get back to the commenter and ask, okay, so why don't you think this would work, and what don't you like about this idea? Okay, we have the question again, what is a good target ratio of comments to ideas? You mentioned 5-to-1. Yes, basically, right, a good target ratio is 1-to-2, but quite often actually you would even get more of these, like a higher ratio, having 5-to-1 or 6-to-1 or something like that would of course be great, but that depends a lot also on the quality of your comments. So if you have a really poor quality and only 10% of all your comments can be considered helpful, of course, yeah, the picture looks a bit different. How to select top commenters to be able to recognize them for an award? Well, that is of course something depends a little bit on your system. For example, some platforms actually have some kind of leaderboards where you would actually see which people submitted most ideas, which people submitted most comments, and you might actually even have a point-based reputation system behind, where people get for comments some points, and people get points for ideas and so on. And based on that, people that comment a lot would also get their points, and therefore might also have the chance to get to the top, even if they never submitted an own idea. Depending, actually, of course, also on your setting, sometimes you might, yeah, just during the evaluation, you get a good gut feel of which comment was really helpful, which comment really made the difference, and therefore, when you select an idea and when you recognize good ideas, you might just want to point out that there was also some substantial contribution made through this and this commenter. On an overall level, awarding or recognizing and maybe rewarding commenters, it's the same thing. It is it's hard to measure, but typically moderators, innovation and campaign managers that are very active in looking at the system and interact a lot with users would normally have a good gut feel of of who is basically a most active commenter, and therefore might reward these. Is there a concern if someone comments too much? For example, 75% of the comments in a big campaign come from only a few people. Could this limit the participation from others? Well, interesting point. In general, I would say no. This is of no concern. It depends, of course, whether these comments are helpful or not. If we have somebody being very active in commenting and giving valuable contributions, this is fine, and this person should be recognized. And there's no harm to and no need to try to stop this person. In general, this is hard to do. You cannot really say, okay, please comment less. Of course, if his comments are usually not that helpful, you might have to talk to this person, maybe in person, and ask him to what he should improve with his comments. And maybe if he even makes some controversial points, he's very negative about many ideas, you might especially reach out to him in person. You mentioned that user voting takes away some of those undesired comments. What kind of voting are you suggesting? Yes, that's right. Actually, having a voting functionality is actually good for having less of these comments which are like, this idea is great, or I like this idea, but also ideas, comments like, I don't like this idea, or I don't think this idea is really feasible. So if you have, for example, a thumbs up and thumbs down voting, people can easily express their feeling about the idea with just a click on this. If you have a more diversified voting system, for example, you have like star voting on different dimensions, like on, for example, on feasibility or innovativeness, of course people can give a much more specific rating on this, and they may just express their feelings and their opinions on their idea through that. So this would also help already to take away some of these comments. So some research that I actually came across not too long ago suggested to have, that the best voting mechanism would actually be to have up to 4-dimensional star voting. So 4 dimensions of star voting, having different criteria, for example, as mentioned, feasibility, attractiveness, wow factor, or something like that, is actually the best voting to get compared to the quality. All right. Okay. So we are actually getting towards the end of our presentation, and let me check. I have a list of questions which I already answered. In the past, I've seeded a campaign by conducting a face-to-face brainstorming session with a small selected group. Each person then took a few of our winning ideas from the brainstorming and put them into Hype. It seemed to work out pretty well. Do you recommend this? any other ideas you have like this that are effective? Very good question. Yes, certainly I do recommend this. When it comes to seeding, it is actually really important to, or no, let me take a step back. It is recommendable to seed wisely. You do want to have some kind of, ideally some middle ranking ideas which are not top-notch, because they may actually set the bars too high. People might feel, okay, my idea never can live up to that, and they may feel, well, okay, this idea is really high level, so this is actually, it might just give them a different impression of what is actually used and needed. So let me make that clear again. Yes, it is certainly recommendable to seed and to create to prepare some ideas, even if you, as an innovation manager, as a sponsor, have some ideas in mind. You may, of course, use them as seed ideas. However, we normally say that ghostwriting is allowed at this level. So you may want to pick handpick some people from the audience and ask them whether they can act as so-called lead innovators and seed the campaign with their ideas. And it is totally okay to pass on a few of your ideas to them and have them submitted in their name. If your ideas that you already have might also be, of course, ideas that come through some other channels, maybe through some brainstorming workshop or whatever, you may want to maybe not use all kinds of information that you have already. Maybe not. Leave some issues in your idea when you describe it, and let these issues being fixed as part of the seed comments. So some sort of orchestration is totally okay at this point. All right, okay, we are through actually with the questions. Okay, there's one last one that just came in. Do you see a difference in reactions to the thank you or thumbs up button in different countries or cultures? That's an interesting question. No, so far I haven't really seen that. I know, and many of you might know that as well, that a thumb up symbol is not really well tolerated in every culture, and especially since it has some different meanings. So therefore this symbol might not be perfect for for every voting, but in general, we haven't really seen many differences in that sense. All right, okay, so I hope this webinar was helpful. I hope I answered all of your questions. Of course, anytime feel free to get back to me. You get my contact details here. Also, feel free to connect with me. And yeah, I just hope to see you again for any other webinars or maybe one of our events. So let me get back to pitch.